The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of providing the opportunity to the public to express themselves on school-related matters of concern to the residents of East Brunswick, to allow for a fair and orderly public comment period, and in accordance with the Board Policy 167, individual comments are limited to 5 minutes. Members of the public are reminded that this is a public televised meeting of the Board of Education. To protect the privacy of all students and staff, concerns regarding individual students and staff members should generally be addressed by first meeting with the appropriate administrative staff per New Jersey Statute 10412B. Is there anyone that would like to address this Board of Ed? Seeing none, we'll close that, go to the cause, and we'll move on to our action items. I'd like to combine the agenda this evening, making note of the following things on the table. On your table is the report of HIB, and there is an additional addendum labeled 4B. In addition, I'd like to eliminate from action item A2, policies for first reading, policy number 3218 and 4218. So I'd like a motion on that combined agenda.
What are we combining, or what parts?
Moving the entire agenda.
The entire agenda?
Correct.
Then
So
I have a few
anything that needs to be
questions.
separated out, or
We have to make our motion.
Okay.
Would you just repeat the policies that are being removed from
the
consideration?
policies that are being taken off the table for this evening is 3218 and 4218.
Okay.
You need a motion for that, Dr. Cohen?
Yes, you need a motion and a second to have a discussion.
Okay, so moved.
Mr. McAvoy, is there a second? Mrs. Becker?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Of the whole agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Who wants to start? You want to
Go
start?
ahead, Dr.
Let's see, let's start off with, I'm almost scared to make a comment because I know that Bernie's going to anticipate my question for the budget result, but that means I've been working too many times. C9, I assume that is our bond counsel.
Yes, that's correct.
As I read, I believe the firm was with us how many years for bond counsel? Why guess? How many
Many.
years? Many.
Many years.
The RFQ is done every year for the bond counsel?
Yes, the RFQ is done annually for all professional services. It's
All right.
required.
We didn't do one for C3, which is Mr. Kobe's firm.
Yes, we did.
Oh, we did do it?
Yes, we did.
The RFQ, in the C9, you mentioned that there was actually one request, one.
In C9, which is bond counsel, McMahon, Scotland, and Bauman, we issued requests. Only one firm responded, which is our current bond counsel. No other counsel responded.
May I know how many requests answered back on C3?
In C3, we similarly sent out numerous RFQs, requests for quotation. We received two responses. Those two firms are indicated on page 9, and our current board attorney's firm was one of the two.
And how many times would you consider a time where you would think that there would be enough responses? Would you go back out if you only received none at all?
We would need to go back out if none were received,
So
if
you
we
need
need
at
the
least,
services.
you need at least just one to
Correct.
actually make the RFQ reasonable.
Correct, and part of that analysis is based on what our experience might be. So we have experience, for example, in C9 with bond counsel, we have longstanding experience with that firm. And so it's not like we were going into new waters and dealing with a firm with which we've had no professional experience.
Has the bond counsel ever came and talked to the Board of Ed?
Yes.
Do you remember the last time they came?
I
A couple of years ago, we were doing, a couple years ago, we were trying to do a shared service agreement with the East Brunswick Township, where we're going to do purchases using their bond rating. as to the bond council came out for that, did a whole presentation on how you would coordinate the two and what would qualify for a shared service bonding through the capacity of the township.
Okay. Thank you.
I think we interviewed.
We actually did
Yes,
interview
we
at one
also
point. Yep.
interviewed bond counsel.
It was fascinating.
Mr. McAvoy?
Of course. C1, Mr. Juliana?
Yes. C1 is,
This is because of the gym roof must be done first?
well, any facility project that the district undertakes must be submitted to the Department of Education for review. And what takes place is really very simple. The Department of Education determines whether the project affects educational adequacy or does not. So in cases where educational adequacy is affected, such as in addition to building where classrooms are being added, or renovation of the media center, as we had done here, the Department of Education will review the full schematics and look at the calculations concerning occupancy. Where educational adequacy is not affected, essentially, they say they don't need to review it. Go forth with your plans and have the local building department take care of the appropriate code review.
C2, I just did, I didn't see the sketch. That was not in my packet. And nor was that on the Chromebook. I didn't need to see that, did I?
Yeah, that, no,
No.
actually,
I wrote
those
down
words should not have been included.
Right, because I wrote down, as Mr. Matthews mentioned, I think it was Mr. Matthews, installation of future solar conduits. I think that's a smart move with regard to where we're going there. So I applaud you for that. C3, that Mr. Philipchak had mentioned briefly, this is approval of a contract to retain Mr. Giacobbe's firm.
Correct.
And I have found that Mr. Giacobbe and his staff have given the East Brunswick Board of Education regarding legal advice and recommendations, and just even the day-to-day operations of a phone call that I may make to his office, let alone making it to Dr. Valesky and then Mr. Giacobbe getting back. His professionalism with regard to his comprehensive outlook, looking about, the welfare of our district has been so beneficial, and I wanted to publicly thank Mr. Giacobbe. C6. I see that as no change whatsoever.
Correct.
And therefore, since there's no change whatsoever, we're not leaning towards privatization in any areas whatsoever.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, thank you.
If I might just ask a question in regards to C6.
Fine.
My question is, it mentions towards the end of the resolution that there would be a contract total of $18,000 in accordance with the proposal. Is that $18,000 for each type of service, being the food service program would cost $18,000 and the custodial service program would cost $18,000, or it's just one?
No, each. There,
Okay.
page 14 indicates for the food service contract, and page 15 reflects for the custodial management contract.
Okay. So a total of $36,000 for
Yes.
Educate.
And that remains the same level that it was for the current year. There's no change in the cost.
I have a follow-up question on that same topic. I believe earlier in the year or last year, when we first talked about this, there was some question as to whether we needed this service, and I certainly supported it, the need to have, third-party quality control. So I guess my question is, how long do we envision continuing it? And would it be at the same level, or do we see it going down, certainly in the first year, it's really important, and maybe the second year, but at what point would we, have a reduced need?
Well, the way I have seen this function for this year, the services have been highly beneficial to us. They basically serve as a third-party watchdog, helping to analyze a lot of the details that we, in doing the day-to-day operations of the district, don't have time to analyze. So they help to keep our contracted services honest. So in terms of long-term, I can't say that, well, maybe in year 3, we wouldn't need it. I'm not sure that that would be the right thing to do. I think we need to see how things
Or
progress in year
reduced
2.
level. So we'll continue to
We'll-
monitor
we'll-
it and see if we can
Yes, right.
reduce it?
Yep.
Okay.
D5,
Wait,
shared
You
services.
It's okay, I can come back.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, there's no rotation of.
D5, shared services, I just had one comment of the overall purpose of it. I fully support. If the overall purpose is actually to lower taxes and find a way that we could actually share services with the township, I think it's the best thing to do, and I hope we explore more in the future.
I think we were working on that a while back. It was unfortunately not successful, so, with a little bit of different blood and a new attitude, I think that it turned out to be something that benefits both of us, and more importantly, the taxpayers.
Great.
So, much appreciated.
On C15, this question maybe Dr. Valesky can answer. I think the community might want to get a definition or an explanation for the purpose of the contract. The question that ran through my head was, with the new IT director not being on board yet, I guess this is something that needs to be done immediately. However, this is something that I don't think has been done before.
Correct.
And after you explain, I just feel that this hopefully will not be something that we'll have to do often.
Correct.
Okay.
I apologize to the board because we needed to move forward with a knowledge transfer regarding a particular individual who's retiring at the end of this year. And it was a coordination of Sonera Services, getting a person on site to document programs that she had created in-house. The board might remember that in the Sonera report, that was one of the items that they pointed out, that we had a number of homegrown systems that we did not have adequate or any documentation for. And so they're collecting information and creating a roadmap for us to be able to utilize those interfaces and those homegrown software programs without having to rely on the resources of other people. So it puts us in a position of independence, which we should be. I did bring the new CIO candidate into the conversation. He was aware of it and was abreast of what we were collecting, and he's available to talk to Sonera during this process. In fact, they'll wrap up tomorrow.
And when Sonera comes on board, or maybe they've come on board already.
They have.
It won't be a lengthy process for them to investigate.
No, they came in on Tuesday. They'll be done tomorrow.
Beautiful. Moving forward, thank you. Dr. Cohen, thank you.
Thank you. There are any other
Dr. Cohen, I have
questions?
an additional question regarding B2.
B, you said?
B, B2, this is special education out-of-district placements, and there is a mention of a placement at Mercer High School. I'm curious as to whether that is a public school or if that's a private school.
That's
Let
good.
me check.
I believe
It's going to be part of the, I believe, the Special Services District.
at the community college.
Right.
Yes.
So that would
So
be
that makes
considered
it
a
a
public
public
school
placement.
district.
Yes. Specifically, Mrs. Shaw, which student identification are you talking about?
I'm sorry, Dr. Valesky, I didn't hear you.
Which placement were you
It is
questioning?
the first one that's
Yeah,
listed
first one.
there.
Okay,
And
yes, it is a public.
right. Just that, my concern was that we have developed quite a number of autism programs right here in district, and so I was concerned as to why we would need to send a student to another public school for an autism program.
It is because of primarily because of the student's medical condition
Okay.
and our inability to handle that here.
Okay, thank you. Also, I just want to point out that there are several occasions in this agenda where either through a reciprocal agreement or through state vendor contracts or through working with the township, where the school district has made efforts to be economical and to spend the taxpayers' money very prudently.
That is noted and important. Are there any other comments on the, Mrs. Chair?
Just going back to C2, I might have missed it, but a couple of rows that are labeled TBD on C2. So
Yes.
are we, what does that mean when it's TBD?
Well, in these instances, what we have here are, we have two change order, construction change directives, they're called, CCDs. And when there's a directive, that's where the property owner, the district, says to the contractor, we want you to proceed with these tasks. The price will be determined, but it will be based on the unit prices established in the contract. It's a means to get the work done without delaying the project. If we were to work the other way around, because of the progression on this project, they're near completion. There was no time to wait and do this the other way around, where they would compute what the amounts were, process a change order, bring it forward for approval. We would probably lose 2 or 3 weeks' time. That would adversely impact the project's progression.
So how do we make sure that those TBD lines don't exceed, because there'll be additional funding requests that'll come later?
Yeah, well,
Because it'll
yes,
need to
those
come out of
TBDs will be
contingency?
converted into change orders,
Right.
and a dollar amount will be attached to those.
But it can't exceed,
We already will know, we already have an idea of what those costs will be, but in the interest of moving the project along, we had to issue the
And it-
directives.
and it won't exceed the contingency balance. I guess
No,
that's what I'm getting
no,
at.
no, no, it will not. Correct, it will not exceed the contingency balance.
Okay.
I'm not expecting that.
Mr. Giuliano, for clarification of the board, were the time and material elements already pre-negotiated in the contract?
Yes,
So that's already been negotiated, and so Mr. Giuliano can actually anticipate what that cost will be based on the time.
Okay. Any other comments? Then we'll take a roll call.
yes. Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mrs. Chu?
Yes,
Mrs. Howard?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax? Mr. McAvoy? Mr. Philipchak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
President Cohen?
Yes.
Motions carry.
Okay.